So guys, let us move on further in the topic of our environment. So in the last class, you studied about the pyramid, how the energy transfers from the producers to the herbivores and then to the carnivores. Now we will be studying what are the effects that have been happening to the environment due to man's activities. Okay, effects caused due to man's activities. Okay, why is it important to study? Man is doing a lot of things on this planet for his survival. As I told you in the beginning, because of man, there is two types of waste that is created. There is biodegradable and degradable waste. Here, we need to understand, it was biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste. Man is also causing some other things on the earth, that is, for example, there is a lot of pollution, there is a lot of destruction of environment happening, the ozone layer is depleting, a lot of garbage is accumulating. So how is this relating to the ecosystem? Is it good to environment or bad to environment? That is what we need to study. Okay, so let us go on to that. Now, in any food chain, let us take the as usual example, grass to deer, deer to lion. So this is a very simple food chain. In this food chain, if an animal is decreasing or if the food chain's length is decreasing, that is because of human's activity. For example, human is hunting the animals. Isn't it? Not only for food, for his hobby, he goes to forest and he hunts. It was happening few years back. Now it is legalized where if you hunt an animal, the government will impose a case upon you. But earlier, whatever the damage the man has done to the environment has caused several problems. Let us see what has happened. So, we all know that the biggest desert of the world is Sahara Desert. Once upon a time, the Sahara Desert was a vegetative land where it had lot of plants, trees, animals, and some of the people who also habituated there. The people called Romans, okay, we know that. We have studied about Roman history also. So Romans, they started occupying this forest and they hunted all the lions which are present in that region. For it might be for its skin or for food or some other purpose, for hobbies like that. So they hunted all the lions which were present in this region. So what happened once the lions were all removed? So lion takes the position of top carnivore. So since there was no lion, the deers which were present in that land was increased. The lions decreased. Because the lion decreased, nobody ate the deers because deers are eaten by the lions. Correct? They are the predators. The lions are the predators. Now the deers percentage of population increased. So once the deer's population increased in that place, it started eating off all the plants and grass which was present in that place. So just imagine the producers which were available is eaten up by more and more deers because deers started reproducing their kids and their next generation, everybody started eating. Then what happened? The total grass community or the green plants community or the producers community got demolished or they got vanished. Because of that, the entire forest turned into the desert. Okay. Similarly, in India, we have a biggest desert called Thar Desert in Rajasthan. It also happened in the same way. Okay. So, in a food chain, man did one mistake by killing all the lions. That caused the deers to increase. That caused the green plants to decrease, and after few days when there was no food available for the remaining deers, they also decreased. One small mistake, not small mistake, one mistake made the whole ecosystem vanish. Did you see? So that was a forest ecosystem, now it turned into desert ecosystem. Okay, so this is the impact. So guys, now we saw what was the mistake done by the man and the subsequent problems. Now we will consider the same problem, the grass, deer and the lion. Okay, the same food chain is considered and we saw what happens if the lion is removed. We will check the other cases as well. Okay, so in the first step, we will remove all the lions as we have already discussed. All the lions are removed. What happens? As we have already studied, the deers will increase, then the grass and the green plants will decrease, later it turns into desert. In a way, after few days, even the deers will decrease. Now consider the second step. In the same ecosystem, if you remove the deers, if all the deers are removed, what happens? There is no food for the lion now. The lion cannot eat grass because it is a carnivore. Carnivore doesn't eat the plant products directly. They consume herbivores or small carnivore. So now the lion, what happens? Due to starvation, it comes out of the forest. It may reach to the villages or the towns and cities. It may eat the domestic animals like cow, buffalo, and it may also eat human beings. So this is again a problem, correct? Then after few days, as I said, lions might depend on domestic animals, which will spoil the domestic ecosystem. Then, because of huge grass and trees grown there, and there are no animals eating, all the energy will be wasted. Plant prepared its food, but it is wasted. It is not utilized. After some days, even they will die, isn't it? So, this is the second step. Then, let us consider the third step. Remove all the grass. If the man cuts all the grass, what happens? So the deers will not get food, they will die. If they die, then the lions will not get food. So far the deers exist, the lion will also get the food. But after that, even the lion doesn't get food. So the complete ecosystem will spoil. In the first step, we saw overgrazing as a big problem and desertification. In the second case, we saw the domestic ecosystem is being spoiled. In the third case, almost the whole ecosystem is vanished. You cannot expect a new problem arising. The ecosystem itself is damaged. Here, along with the damage of ecosystem, we have an additional problem. Here, the whole ecosystem is damaged. So that is the ill effects or the effects due to man's activities. Okay. So now we will see some of the sample problems. Okay. We'll see the sample problems. Okay, so let us see some of the sample problems which will be coming in your examination. You will be given a certain case. You need to analyze that and give us a reasonable answer. That is it's not a question and answer session. You are given a certain case, understand that case, and tell us what happens in the future or what is it related to. Okay, now. So we will have certain animals listed here. I will not put it in an order. Let us say the lions, the deers, then grass, hawk, and then then a rabbit, like this. This is a problem given now. It is not arranged. Now, which of these organisms exist in the same trophic level? So we have studied the trophic level in the last class. Producers, then herbivores, then small carnivores. At the end we have large carnivore. Correct? Now, in this, the lion takes the large carnivore's portion. The deer takes the herbivore's portion. The grass takes the producer's part. Where does the rabbit come? Rabbit also takes the herbivore's part because both rabbit and deer feed upon the grass or green plants. So the question was, which among these organisms comes in the same trophic level? So after analyzing this case, just one line answer, write that the rabbit and deer both are herbivores. And this is the first level of trophic. This is the trophic level 1, trophic level 2, trophic level 3 and trophic level 4. Yesterday we have studied. We have only few trophic levels and the energy gets transferred from one organism to another in a unidirectional way, in one way. So they both lie in trophic level 2. That's it. Okay, did you analyze this? Similarly, we might add hawk here. So hawk takes the carnivore part. It usually comes at the top portion, as we have seen this in the food web. So this is one of the sample problem. We'll see another sample problem. It can come in 1 mark question or multiple choice or a small 2 mark question as well. So which of the following among belong to the same topic level? The same question again. So we have the frog, grasshopper, then the grass, snake, and an algae. Okay, first let us analyze what are those. Okay, so frog eats both animals and plants, right? So it is a carnivore. First list it out, what is it? Then grasshopper, it eats only the grass or green plant, so it is a herbivore. Then the grass is the producer. What about the snake? Snake eats the frog. It is carnivore again, but it takes the top carnivore portion. We have understood we have two kinds, small carnivore and top carnivore. This is the smaller. The top carnivore eats the small carnivore. Then algae. Where does this algae come into picture now? Is it a producer or is it a herbivore or what it is? So algae is actually a producer, isn't it? Because we have studied planktons. Do you remember? So planktons, phytoplanktons, blue-green algae, so they are producers which are basically found in the aquatic ecosystem. Okay, now what was the question? Who among these organisms come in the same trophic level? So you write your trophic level diagram: producers, herbivores, small carnivore and top carnivore. So now put everybody in their category. Small carnivore here, herbivores here, then producer, top carnivore goes here, then producer. So the algae and the grass are the two organisms which come in the same trophic level 1, that is producers. Okay, understood? You need to list out like this, very simple. Okay, so next further moving on, we need to study about, so in the trophic level the energy is transferring as well as the food material is transferring, correct? In the food chain, both food materials and energy are transferred from one level to other level. So which is a known fact for everyone. In a food chain, you take any food chain, food material is also transferred. A plant eaten by deer, so deer is getting the green part of it as well as after eating it is getting the energy. Both food and energy are transferred. Similarly then it transferring from one level to another level. Now, what is the main thing we have to study here? From one level to another level, what is the change that is happening? Okay, so let us take the first level, that is the producers. In the food chain, who takes the first position? The producers, that is the plants. So where does this plant get the energy from? It is the sunlight. Okay, the whichever organism we have on this earth, even including me, today if I am able to do some work, it is because of my energy. And what is that energy? It is indirectly the sun's energy or the solar energy that is present in every organism. Okay, so the plant got the light energy. That light energy is consumed by the plant and it is capable of preparing its own food in its leaves, and that food is eaten by another organism. Isn't it? So basically what the plant is doing during the photosynthesis, so using all the carbon dioxide, water, other things, it is preparing the food, which means the light energy is converted into chemical energy. What is chemical? I mean, chemical is the food. The plant is preparing carbohydrate, proteins, fat, anything. So those carbohydrate, protein and all what? Carbohydrate means the carbon compounds. Carbon is an element. Element means chemical. So it is preparing chemical energy. What was the basis of that? Light energy coming from the sun. Now, after preparing the food, what does the plant do? Is not the plant growing? The plant is also breathing. The plant also needs some energy for its reproduction, for its transpiration. So many things and activities are also going on in the plant body. So plant also needs energy. Let us say it prepared some 100 joules of energy in one day. In that, most of the energy is utilized by the plant itself. The plant has to draw the water from the roots, so energy is needed. The plant has to tell its xylem and phloem to go around and put all the water and food material. It needs energy. It is also breathing using stomata. It is also throwing out the water using transpiration. Flower is coming, fruit is rising. So all are activities. It needs energy. So that energy is used, not completely, but part of it. Whatever is left out, the energy which is not used or which is excess, like we prepare food, we consume how much ever we want. If there is excess of food left, either we give it to our neighbors or to somebody, or we keep it in the refrigerator. Isn't it? We are storing it. So the plant is also storing the energy. Now, so as I told, the plant is using its energy for growth, for metabolic activities. Metabolism or metabolic activity means respiration, transpiration, all those things will come here. So once everything is done, what is happening? It is storing some part of energy like it will be stored in the fruits form or in the leaves form. That is consumed by the next level of trophic. What is the next level of trophic? It is the herbivores. Okay, we'll see that. So far you understood, a plant prepares the food using photosynthesis. Light energy is converted to chemical energy. It also uses some part of energy for its growth, metabolic activities, and then the remaining is stored. And one more thing, while it is doing all this activity, some energy is also wasted. For example, when cooking the food, we are using the LPG cylinder, that is the fire. All that fire which is coming is not utilized by the complete food work which you are preparing. Some of it will be lost the heat will be lost How? The utensil will absorb some heat. The surrounding area, when your mother is cooking, go stand near the gas stove or whatever the equipment you have, you feel hotness or heat is coming near you. Or if you are boiling the water, some of it will escape in the form of vapors. The heat will escape. So some energy is also being wasted. So here, a part of energy is thrown out to the environment, which is in the form of heat. Okay, that heat is present in the atmosphere, but the plant cannot use that energy back. Okay, once it is thrown, it is gone. That's all. It cannot be used up. Okay, now we will see what happens in the next level. Okay, so in the second level, that is the second trophic level, we have the herbivores. What does this herbivores does? They take the energy from the plants, that is the cow, buffalo, rabbit, deer are all the herbivores. They eat up the plants. They once they eat, they get energy. Whatever was left out in the plant's body is eaten up by these animals now. They also generate energy. And what are they using that energy for? They also perform some activities. The rabbit has to grow, the rabbit has to move in search of food, rabbit has to excrete, it has to digest, respire, so many things, so many forms of life processes happening. So for breathing or for movements or for the growth, that energy is being utilized. Okay, and even in this organism, some energy is again wasted, because once the once the organism's body is metabolizing the food what is consumed is being broken into pieces, and that is released as energy. While that breaking up, some part of energy is lost in the form of heat. Where does the heat go? Again back to the environment. You just feel, for example, even I can be called as herbivore if I eat only plant products. So now I am an herbivore. What am I doing? I have consumed the food, now I am breathing. While I breathe, if I keep my hands near my nose, I can feel little bit of hotness. Isn't it? That is what? Heat energy. It is going out. The energy which I had is also being wasted in the form of heat. So similarly in the other organism, it goes to the outer environment, means in this atmosphere. What happens in the third level? That is the carnivores. Trophic level, we can take both trophic level 3 and 4 here itself, because at the 3 we have small carnivores, at the 4 we have large carnivores. Both of them does herbivores. Herbivores is consumed by, let us say, a lion or a man or a tiger, anything, or sometimes a frog. Small carnivore, these are all large carnivores, isn't it? Sometimes man is herbivore as well. So now what happens? They also consume, they do lot many activities compared to others. They are higher organisms, so their body system needs much of energy. So they also breathe, they walk, they reproduce, digestion, etc. etc. So many metabolic activities. Again, the energy is being utilized for these activities to perform these things. After that, some of that energy is wasted as heat and which goes to the environment. Understood? So now, so far I told you in three trophic levels how the energy is formed, how it is being utilized and how the energy is being wasted. We forgot one more category, that is the decomposers, who doesn't come in the chain. They don't come in the food chain, but the decomposers will eat the plants as well. They eat the herbivores, they also eat the carnivores. Sorry, they eat the carnivores. Eat in the sense, once they all die, decomposers will go and decompose that. So they also need energy. They also take a little bit of energy from them. And while decomposing, they also release some of the energy outside in the form of heat. This heat energy cannot be used by anyone. Okay, it is just present in the environment like that. So now we have studied all this level. Let us put it in a schematic diagram which will be coming in your exam. The same thing what I told you, we will put it in a diagram. So I told the source of energy is the sun. Sun, what does it give? It gives light energy. Then what happens to the light energy? There is something called as plants here. Plants are producers. Let us put it as producers because we do have algae, zooplanktons. Okay. So producers. Producers will convert this energy into chemical energy. That is the food part. They took light, they converted. Now, I told you this producers will give some part of the energy as heat. They throw heat. And there is one more component associated here, the decomposers. Let us put decomposers in a big platform where it is dependent on the producers also. Now, the producers are eaten by the herbivores. Herbivores are also taken by the decomposers once they die, and herbivores, after consuming this food, they enjoy the energy and they release some energy in the part of heat which goes to the environment. Then the herbivores are eaten by the carnivores. Again, this decomposer is dependent on them as well. Carnivores, after using their energy, they release the heat back to the community, and even the decomposers release the heat energy. So it came from sun, it went to plants or producers, then to herbivores, carnivores, and decomposers from everyone. Together, everybody after utilizing their energy, releasing the heat energy to the environment. This environment is called heat community. Okay, heat community. Community means it is a group of people or a group where certain thing is common. Okay. Now we call the urban community, which means people living in the cities. Similarly, the heat community means it is a group where heat energy is coming from all the categories. Okay. So we'll move on further. Okay, from this what did we understand? That the transfer of energy in an ecosystem, it depends on certain points. Point number one, the energy shifts from one trophic level to another trophic level. Energy shifts from one level to another level. Okay, then other thing is this energy is utilized by the organisms for their metabolic activities. Why do they need energy? For their metabolic activities. And then some of the energy is also wasted or it is lost in the form of heat. So loss of energy, that is heat. Fine. Then the energy is not created in the ecosystem. We have the ecosystem has the resources. Now let us say there is a grassland. it is an ecosystem. It has resources, means grass is there, animals are there, and birds are there, whatever it is. It is there. But energy, it wasn't there. We did not create anything. What happened? It was just converted. The light energy got converted into chemical energy. So energy is converted, not created. Fine. Okay. Okay. So it is, these points has to be remembered. Next. So in the same ecosystem, we need to understand other concept is the materials which are flowing. So initially I told you, in the food chain, food material and the energy both gets transferred, but materials are cyclic, energy is unidirectional. What is the meaning of this? Cyclic means, materials means what? The inorganic substances was converted into organic. The earth has soil, in that soil we have the minerals or the nutrients like nitrogen, other things, potassium, etc. The air has the carbon dioxide. The water is readily available. So all these things are picked up by the plant and it prepared the food. So it is taken from the earth. Then it prepared a food. That food is eaten by the herbivore, herbivore to carnivore, carnivore to some other top carnivore. Then it decomposes. What does the decomposer does? It is again breaking everything. Whatever was composed, it is decomposed now, which is again put back into soil. Isn't it a cycle? It is moving, right? Doing the same thing. We have the resources here. The plant used up that. Herbivores ate. Then the carnivores. Then the decomposers. Again putting back that all hydrogen, carbon and water to the environment. It is moving. So these materials are cyclic. It is not going anywhere out of the ecosystem. It is present in the same ecosystem, but it is in a cyclic way. Like the water cycle. The water is there on the earth itself, but it keeps on moving from the hydrosphere to atmosphere, back to hydrosphere. Okay, so that is about the cyclic part. So other thing is, it is unidirectional. Energy is unidirectional. So we saw that grass to grasshopper, grasshopper to frog, frog to tiger or something. Okay, snake. So energy is going from the grass to grasshopper, and it used up all the energy and it released some part of the energy as heat. Then this energy is used by the frog, some part of energy as heat. Then to snake, then heat. This heat is not taken back, I told you. It cannot be used by the organism, it is just left. It is all one direction. Is the energy coming back to the frog from the snake, then from the frog to grasshopper? No, it is not possible. That is why it is unidirectional. So in the flow of materials, we need to understand the material part is cyclic, the energy part is unidirectional. Okay. The next concept is 10% law. Very interesting concept. We'll do this. So there was a scientist called Raymond Lindman. So this person did a research upon the ecosystem and he observed how the energy is getting transferred in tropic levels. Is there any ratio or comparison? Because when we distribute some things, some food items or anything, we distribute according to the family size. Let us say we have 1000 kgs of rice with us. When we are distributing to the family, we check the number of members in that family. Depending on that, we give more or less quantity for each family. Similarly, in the ecosystem, is there any imbalance happening in the distribution of energy? That is what he analyzed and he has given that in the form of 10% law. 10%, the name itself suggests in each tropic level, only 10% of the total energy is transferred. Okay, I'll give you an example. So we know that the sun is giving the light energy. That light energy is falling on a plant. Okay, in the plant we have many parts like the flowers, fruits, branches, stem, then leaves. But where is the food synthesized? It is on the leaves. So the light falling on the stem is not utilized. The light falling on a fruit is not utilized. Only the light which falls on the leaf part is utilized by the plant for its preparation of food. And how much do you think is the light energy falling on the plant leaf part? Because in the cities we have only buildings and other structures where plants are not available. But in the agricultural field or in the villages, we have plants or trees. Even there, only 1% of the sun's energy. Let us say the sun is sending 100% of energy to the earth. Only 1% of light is falling on the plant's body or plant's leaf part. Okay, so that energy is now utilized for the plant for preparation of food. Okay, now the plant prepared the food. Let us say, okay, let us take like this. Because the energy is measured in terms of joules, so we will talk in that manner itself. So there is 20,000 joules of energy coming from the sun, because sun is a massive star. It is giving lot of energy. 20,000 joules of energy is coming. I told you the 10% law will not apply only for plant, but in the subsequent food chain it will be applied. So only 1% is falling on the leaves. Please make it a note. So what is 1% of 20,000? We'll calculate 1% of 20,000 joules is 1 divided by 100 into 20,000. That is, cancel the zeros. We get 200 joules. So the plant got only 200 joules of energy. Now the plant prepared its food, it is readily available. And now we know that plant also utilizes this energy for its metabolic activity. So it has utilized everything. Now it is being transferred to let us say a deer. Okay. What did I tell? It is 10% law. 10% of energy is only transferred to the deer. That is, so that 10% of what was the energy that came to the plant? It is 200 joules. 10% of 200 joule is 20, isn't it? So only 20 joules of energy is received by the day. Just compare. The sun gave us 20,000 joules of energy. See, look at here. The deer is getting only 20 joules. Now, the next animal is lion. Okay, so lion again. Calculate 10% over this 20 joules. It is 2 joules. Finally, the lion is getting only 2 joules of energy. So this is where we need to understand that as the food chain increase, or as the number of organisms increase in the food chain, the energy will decrease. The organism which was in the first got lot of energy, that is 200 joules. Then it is decreasing. Almost 10% is only being transferred to other organisms. Remaining 90% of energy is lost. It is lost in the sense it is utilized by the organism, and some of energy is gone out for it. So like that. And just imagine if there was another animal which used to consume lion. What is 10% of 2 again? 0.0, 0.2, which is nowhere, which is not even required. That is why we have only maximum of 4 level of trophic levels in a food chain. Okay, we don't have further animals. Maybe if I change the food chain here, grass to grasshopper, then to frog, then to snake. So maximum of 4 organisms will be available, or 5 organisms. But understand that energy will decrease as the trophic level increases. The last animal in the trophic level receives the minimum amount of energy that was sent by the sun. Okay. Okay, so the next ill effect or the effect of man's activity on the environment is, we know that pesticides are used for killing the pests that will come in the crop field or in the agricultural field, because we expect a lot of yield and we invest money, and the farmer works day and night for the growth of the plants. But if there are some rodents or insects, what happens? They start spraying some chemicals so that those rodents or insects will be killed and our plant is protected. For that reason they spray. But what is the ill effect of that? That chemical is still present in the soil, and that soil mixes with the water and the minerals, then it is absorbed back by the plant. So the plant is absorbing all the pesticide to its body, which is a chemical. If we eat that, even we get some diseases, or we may even the death might occur. So this concentration of pesticides in plants, or after eating that plant, even that gets transferred to animals. So this is called called bioconcentration. Concentration is you focus everything on one thing, right? Right now, if I ask you to concentrate, you will concentrate here on this topic. So, like that, all the pesticides or the chemicals will get into one organism and it is all getting accumulated. This is bioconcentration. Then, similarly, we have another concept called biomagnification. Magnification, the meaning of magnification is you are zooming out the things, you are understanding in depth or in clarity. That is, now the plant got the chemicals and the chemical is transferred to some organism, then to some other organism, then finally snake or some animal like peacock. The snake is even eaten by a peacock. So if you observe this food chain, the plant consumed the pesticides, chemicals, and then it was absorbed by the grasshopper because it also ate. Then it got transferred. Do you observe the chemical is also getting transferred in each level of organism? Finally, which organism is having the maximum accumulation of chemicals? It is the peacock, because the first plant started and then even the grasshopper, while after eating the plant, it might have consumed more chemicals which were present in the air or other subsequent materials. And once the frog which consumed the grasshopper, it also increased its, let us say like this, the grasshopper ate two plants, so it got 20% of the chemicals accumulated. But the frog ate two such grasshoppers or three or four grasshoppers because it cannot feed on only one grasshopper. So again these grasshoppers had two plants. So do you see the chemicals which were present in these three grasshoppers increased to the frog. Okay, so here 6, then there was one more frog which had 6 more grasshoppers chemical. Now the snake had both these frogs, so it got 12. The peacock cannot consume only one snake, it consumed one more, you imagine, so it got 24. So did you see, the plant had only 1% of chemicals present. Gradually it increased in the last animal which is present in the food chain. So this is called biomagnification. So if I have to define the biomagnification, it is the increase in the concentration of harmful materials or chemical substances in the food chain. Okay, especially it happens in the last animal of the food chain. Okay, so this is called biomagnification, which is a very interesting concept. Then the other major threat that is happening to the environment is the ozone layer depletion. Ozone layer depletion. Now, first let us understand what is ozone layer. Depletion means the damage that is caused. Layer is, it is a thick layer which is now becoming thinner. Okay, why it is becoming thinner and what happens if it becomes thinner, we'll understand. Ozone layer is the sun releases the radiation, correct? And in the atmosphere we have oxygen molecules. These oxygen molecules will get converted, will be broken down into oxygen atoms. That is an individual existence of atom. Further, the same oxygen atom will react with the oxygen molecule. This is oxygen molecule. The individual existence is oxygen atom. So there will be lot of oxygen molecule in the atmosphere. So one more molecule which is present will react with this atom now, and it forms O3. So O3 is called ozone. Okay, the name for this O3 is ozone. In our atmosphere, there is a blanket which is covered, or it is a protective layer of ozone. Means that the sun is there, then the earth is available, and then there is atmosphere. Around the atmosphere is one layer of ozone. Okay, all the ozones will form one layer. By this formation, it is helping us. It is helping the people and the living organisms on the earth, because we have, as I told you, there is sun. The sun is giving the radiation. In this radiation, we have ultraviolet radiation. Ultraviolet radiation is very dangerous and hazardous. If it reaches the earth, okay, we need sunlight. We need sunlight to prepare the food and to get energy. But along with the light, if we get UV radiation, then the plants which are present will die. We will get problems like skin cancer, because which is very dangerous, this UV radiation. So now who is the watchman who is controlling this UV radiation? It is our ozone layer. Since ozone layer is available, it will not allow UV radiation to pass through it. Okay, it will only allow the light to pass through. Okay, so we are protected. But human beings are very greedy. We do lot many things. We invent. We are more advanced in technology, but we are also creating threat to the planet. We all know we use refrigerators and there will be aerosol sprayers, the room sprayers. If you go to hospitals or to some malls, you and some supermarkets, you will feel a nice fragrance coming in. That is the room freshener will be sprayed. So that is called aerosol sprayers. So such things, there are many more, but the known examples, refrigerator, the fridge and the aerosol sprayer will release a kind of chemical called CFC. CFC means chlorofluorocarbon. Okay, chlorofluorocarbon. There is chlorine, fluorine and carbon together to form chlorofluorocarbon. This is very dangerous, which is released from these two equipments will go back to the atmosphere from the earth. Just imagine on the earth there will be so many refrigerators, so many aerosol sprayers. They all release this. It will go back to atmosphere and it will damage this ozone layer. And it is found that our ozone layer has already been depleted. It was a thick layer. Now it has become very thin. It has become like a sheet of paper. So more and more it becomes thin. It will be incapable of stopping the UV radiation. Isn't it? When you are feeling too much cold, if you wear a thick blanket, you will feel warm. But just if you wear a small thin cloth, it is not enough for you to protect from that cold. Similarly here, since the ozone layer is getting cold or depleted, the harmful radiation is entering our earth and it is causing dangerous things, or it is causing skin cancers and the plants are dying, many new diseases are arising. So this is the one more threat, ozone layer depletion. So if there is a question that ozone layer, please explain what is ozone, what is the importance of ozone layer, what are the things which are damaging the ozone layer, because of the damage what is happening. Okay, so this is okay guys, we have come to the last part of the lesson, that is there is one more big threat in urban areas like a city like a Bangalore has a major problem, that is garbage management. So it is also again a problem caused by man or human beings. So managing the garbage that we produce. Why we are using this word? We produce. It is produced by us, not by the animals or any other organisms on this planet. No. So we all produce garbage every day. At our homes, we can see the kitchen will give you the vegetable peels, then the fruit peels, peeled out materials, and some plastic papers, and the cups, or you can also see some old items, etc. Okay, so all these are garbage that is produced. Even the food which is remained and which is not which cannot be consumed by you because it is excess and it is also spoiled food. So all these are put into the garbage carriers. The government will send the garbage carriers. In that waste, again, in the beginning we have studied, we have two waste, biodegradable and non-biodegradable. Okay, two kinds of waste. In a city like Bangalore, there is a very strict rule that both biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste has to be separated and then dumped into the garbage vehicles. Otherwise, the government will not accept it, which is a very good initiative. If the garbage is mixed up, then you know the complexity, it cannot be absorbed by the soil. Only the biodegradable will be absorbed, non-biodegradable will be remaining, which will cause soil pollution and even air, water and other pollutions. So it is advised to do the government regulation, whatever is they have told, please follow that. Okay, separate your waste and then put it into the vehicle. Now, there are different methods of disposing the garbage. So we have first method called recycling, and then we have compost making, or you can say composting or preparing the compost. Then we have incineration, then sewage treatment or sewage water treatment. Okay, and we have landfills. Okay, these are the major five methods followed to dispose the garbage. First, recycling. What is recycling? We have lot of plastic on the earth, and we know plastic is not absorbed by the soil, or it is not decomposed. It cannot be decomposed. So we will put that into non-biodegradable category. But how is this plastic usage will be controlled? What is the method that we can do? Don't manufacture the plastic, but whatever is already available, reuse that, recycle that. Okay, recycling is the purest quality of plastic will be used to prepare some pipes or some furnitures, etc. But after they get old, you could give back that to the companies, or the garbage pickers will give that to the recycling companies. They will manufacture another equipments like household utensils, your plastic cups, etc. So they are all reused. We have plastic bottles, which is recycled one, and let us say there is a lot of paper which is used for writing and things, which is the fresh and the first form of paper. Once it is all used, we'll give back that to the paper shop, and he gives to the recycling company. Now they cannot prepare a fresh paper using that, so they'll recycle and they will use that for newspaper printing. Okay, please observe your notebook quality and your newspaper quality. Both differs. Okay, newspaper is a recycled paper, and they also prepare greeting cards and handmade paper for the craft work. And some of the cups and carry bags are prepared by the recycled paper, and also the cardboard boxes to pack up some of the materials, like TV will be packed up in a cardboard box, the pizza boxes, all these are recycled paper. Okay, so recycling is the one good option that we can follow to dispose the garbage. Then composting. We have the biodegradable components like the leaves, the plant parts, and the dead bodies, and the food which is remained. This part is it is put into a soil, and we allow some earthworms, or it will allow some few days to decompose. That becomes a very good manure. Manure means it is like a energy to the plant. If you put that back to the plant, so whatever was present in that compost, the organic materials, sorry, the carbon, nitrogen, whatever, it is again given back to the plant. Now the plant growth will be, it will be better compared to earlier. So composting is one good idea. So government has initiated preparing your own compost, if not in the urban areas, in the rural areas where the villagers prepare their own compost, because they raise a lot of cows, buffaloes in their farms, and they get the farm waste, like after harvesting, after taking the rice or the ragi, they will have all that hay part or the stacks. That together will be put along with the cow dung, and then allow them to few days or few years. That will become a very good compost to their feed. They put that back into their feed, so the plants will grow well. So that is composting. And you can also prepare biogas, which is a fuel. We can replace LPG. Biogas is eco-friendly. There is no pollution. So which is being utilized in some of the vehicles in Bangalore now. So biogas can be also prepared. Then incineration. Incineration is a method where you have a big, let us say, there is lot of garbage available, which cannot be which will be decomposed, but it will take lot of time, but you don't have space. So what to do? So there is a big plant. Plant means not the producer. It is a equipment. Okay, it is a machine where all this compost, all this garbage will be put into that machine. That machine is called, let me rest. Okay, so recycling we have studied, composting is over. Now incineration we were discussing. So incineration, as I told, it is a big machine. It is called as incinerator, where a large volume of garbage is put into that, and around 1000 degrees Celsius of heat is provided. Heat is, we are burning all the garbage. So you know, you take a piece of paper, you burn that, the paper was this much in size. After you burn, it will become only this much of size. The ashes will be, let us say there is paper, you burn that, at the end of burning you get only little bit of ash. So this is the method used to reduce the garbage. If you have loads of garbage, when you burn that, the quantity will decrease, the ash quantity will become less, so we can avoid garbage. And after burning this garbage at 1000 degrees Celsius, we remove some of the useful component. If there is any water left out or carbon dioxide or the nitrogen, anything left out, we will take that and we utilize that for some other purpose. The remaining ashes will be gradually, it will be thrown to soil or it will be released back to the environment. Okay, so this is one method, and the next method is landfill. Landfill is the people will search for low level areas. Low level means we know there are different types of land, the plateaus, the plain lands, the lowlands and all. Lowlands is where we live in an upper region and there is a big hole kind of thing, like mountain side and all, or a big lake. Once upon a time there was a lake, now it is drained up. Now the lake part is a big hole. Okay, what they do, which is out of the city, they will take all the garbage and they dump in that hole. Okay, once the garbage is dumped, they close that with soil. They bring bulldozers and they will cover all those garbages. Then it gets decomposed. So this is one of the way. In a city like Bangalore, this is the most adopted method because treating this garbage has become a big problem because there is a lot of population here and the size of the city is less. So they are using landfill method. And finally, we have recycling is done, composting, landfill. What was that? Incineration is done. Okay, sewage treatment. So far we discussed about the waste that is generated in our kitchens and in our homes. But what about the sewage? Sewage is the water coming out of the washrooms, in the bathrooms, in the toilets, whatever it is. Okay. So how do we treat that? All that water is mixed up with much of poisonous things or chemicals. Lot many things are mixed up already. You cannot pick the garbage and put it here and there. It is dissolved. So what government does is they allow that water to get into the water body, that is the rivers or the ocean. But remember, the ocean is purest form of water now, means the water is good to consume or for agriculture. If you throw all this sewage water, won't that get polluted? So what government does, before throwing that sewage water into a ocean or a river, what they do in the city, they collect the water through underground pipes. So you know, everybody's toilet connections will go to the main chamber connection or the pipe which is there in the road. Below the road, there will be underground pipes which will be run. Through that pipes, it will go to sewage treatment plant. Plant is again not a producer; it is a machinery. Okay, there they put all this sewage water and they will take any essential things in that. For example, if there is some nitrogen, phosphorus, they take back that. They will add some chemicals, they'll kill all the germs, whatever is there, and they'll extract only the good water. And that good water will be released into the oceans and rivers. Whatever was generated here, that after the treatment, means after allowing the chemicals and whatever it is, available things is utilized for agriculture back. If it is poisonous, then they will not utilize that. And any gas generated here, that gas is again used as biogas, which I told you earlier. Okay, so that is all about this lesson. We need to understand one thing. In this environment, the biodegradable and degradable components are like we have to balance the environment. If you add more and more non-biodegradable components, it will create problem to our environment. So there is one case study happened. Earlier in the trains and in the shops, the tea or coffee was served using plastic cups. Okay, for minimum quantity they used to supply in a steel glass which was washable. But let us say it is which is a train or it is a bus. Okay, mostly in the train. So in the trains we don't meet the people often. Correct? The person has to come, offer the tea, and he has to leave. So they used to use the plastic cups. But later it was creating pollution because of the plastic. Then the government said not to use that. Then they thought of using the clay pots. Okay, small cups made of clay. But that created problem because it was not hygienic. Because it was not hygienic, and one more thing is people started preparing more and more cups using the topsoil of the earth. Then because of that, the soil erosion will also occur.